Hello, this is going to be the production breakdown from my new song Ruby Leffe. Cool, so this is how the intro goes. Cool, so this song started from me wanting to create a little kind of sample instrument from the 12th fret harmonics on the guitar. So I recorded the 12th fret harmonics on every string. And then I chucked them into the nylonukmusic sampler, and so that kind of laid it out onto a keyboard. What I done to make it fill out the whole of the keyboard, what you can do in nylonukmusic is you can actually stretch kind of how far you want a particular sample to cover. And so I had E, B, G, D, A and E, and so then I just stretched them out in between so that there wasn't any gaps, so that I could then play these harmonics in, well, any note then, which is pretty cool. So I wasn't just limited to the 6 notes I had here. I could stretch it across the whole keyboard, and yeah, then I just started kind of jamming on my little MIDI keyboard to come up with a cool little idea. And so this was the idea that started the song. So that was the beginnings really, and so the intro is really just made up of a couple elements. So the first being a guitar, which is heavily reverbed, and just playing these quick little arpeggios. And so to come up with them chords, I just looked at that main kind of harmonic idea that I came up with. I was looking at the bass notes and the melody notes there, and I just kind of replicated that onto the guitar. So this intro is really just made up of 2 chords. So having kind of analysed the chords, we can look at this as being like an E flat major. Then the second chord, it's like a C minor chord that we've got. And so another element we've got in the intro is the harmonic samples. So again, just jumping between them 2 chords, and I chucked a couple passing notes in there just to keep it interesting, because this is a bit of a more chilled, relaxed, slower song, and it's quite sparse, but I didn't want it to be too sparse where it doesn't feel like there's enough movement or enough going on. And then another main element that I added into it is audio from a video clip I got, because I actually went to Paris for a holiday.
We're back to the City of Lights. Is it this one?
When I was coming up with the name for this song, Ruby Leffe, it's actually the name of a beer, this nice kind of fruit beer that I was drinking out there. Because with this song, as I was composing it, I just wanted to make a nice kind of chilled, kind of floaty, relaxing song. And so once it was all done, I was thinking, man, what could I call this? And I just had this memory of, being in Paris, drinking some Ruby Leffe, and just feeling very chilled out and relaxed. And so once I decided that for the title, I then thought it'd be cool to sprinkle in some little elements or ambience that I captured when I was in Paris. And so this is the audio from a video clip. So we're amongst a load of tourists, and it's just this nice little chatter. And it's kind of like a little laugh in there. And so I thought it's just a nice kind of chilled, happy vibe to kind of quite quietly kind of just sprinkle that in there into the intro. And then also what I like to do as well, I really love to use reverse elements to really help transition into the next section. And so what we've got here, I've got a kick that I would have recorded and then bounced it out and then reversed it. So it just creates that kind of whooshing sound. And then I've done the same with a bit of bass. And then finally there's a synth that I introduce a little bit later on, but I just recorded that, flipped it, and that created a nice transition. So with all the reversed elements together, so just a nice little way to help kind of transition into a new section or a new part. So that is the very beginning of the intro. So it's quite sparse, but then I add a few more layers to it. So really, this is where that main harmonic riff comes in there. The guitar chords, they're still doing the same really from the very beginning. So we've got our E flat. And I've got a tiny little, very reverbed synth, just adding like a nice little kind of sparkly texture in the higher frequencies. So this is how it sounds on its own. And that's just coming in at the very beginning of that section. And so this synth, it would just be, a preset built into Reason. So just a nice, little sparkly texture. And then I've got the same synth there, delayed, with a nice stereo ping pong delay. So if we hear the two synths together. So it's very subtle. This is kind of like ear candy sort of stuff we're adding in there. But I liked having the synth delayed separate from the main synth, just so it wouldn't push that main synth super far to the back of the mix. And then for more bassy elements, I duplicated the harmonic little sample instrument I made. And with this one, I stretched the low E harmonic that I sampled. I stretched that all the way across the lower keys. So I've now got this cool kind of bass element which originated just from the 6th string 12th fret harmonic. And so all that is doing is just copying what the main riff is doing. So this kind of like left hand element there, and just playing it an octave below. And then to kind of beef that up, I recorded live bass, again just copying the same thing. And then to add even more bass to this, you can see a bit of a running theme. I've got just a sine wave sub bass, and I'm playing about with the release again just to make it kind of mimic the bass guitar, really. So this is very low. Yeah, so just very low and very subby. But with all them elements together, yeah, it just gives like a very nice solid foundation for the section. Cool, and then drums. So I'm using the Stephen Slate, the free edition, his drum samples. They just sound very good. And what I wanted with this song, I didn't want to have too much of like an electronic drum vibe. I wanted it to sound a bit more kind of real and human. So this is the drum pattern that I programmed in. So again, very sparse, but it has a nice little kind of bounce to it. And then I always like to layer up the percussion with some actual kind of real elements that I've recorded. So I've just got a little egg shaker here and added that as like a nice little kind of top percussion line to accompany the drums. And so I'm kind of accenting on beats 2 and 4 there to help with the snares. So if we listen to the drums and the egg shaker. So nice and straightforward. And so I wanted to duplicate the length of this intro part here. And so I thought a nice way to vary it would be to start introducing some lead guitar elements. Let's just listen to that part of the intro. So this is what I played for the lead guitar. So very simple, very sparse. And now having kind of gone back and analysed this song, yeah, I've kind of worked out that it's in the key of E flat. And then for a lot of this kind of lead stuff and the melodies and solos, it's really based off of a C minor scale, which kind of makes sense with the key of E flat, because that's the relative minor. So yeah, so it's really just the kind of top end part of that scale. And the rhythm guitar, that's continuing just to bounce between, yeah, the E flat and the C minor we've got there. Cool, so that sends us into the verse, so let's give that a listen. Cool, and so with the verse, I knew I wanted to vary it a little bit from the kind of intro that we had there. And so I was more thinking of a different chord progression that I could play about with. So it starts with an E flat major 7. And then I go up to a G minor. And then to finish it off, we have a B flat. And then on the repeat, go back to the same E flat major 7, G minor is the same. Well, this time, instead of going up to here for the B flat, I'm playing it just in this lower voicing. So I kind of feel like with that lower voicing, it feels more like the end of a section. And that's what I was aiming for. So that's the rhythm guitar, and so with the lead, this is where I knew I wanted to develop more of a melody, just to keep it more interesting. So this is what I played for the lead. Yeah, so with that lead, again, this is all kind of based around the C minor scale, and I just, had that little section on loop, and I just experimented, kind of playing about until I settled on a melody that I liked. So I kept the harmonic sampled instrument in the verse, and with this, it's going back to just playing more sustained chords, because in the intro, it's playing this nice kind of, almost like arpeggio kind of constant kind of pattern, and so I thought we want to chill it out a little bit now for the verse. So yeah, just went to some sustained chords, and so this will be following pretty much the same kind of chord progression that I came up with on the guitar. So definitely a little bit more of a melodic movement in there. Again, just to keep it nice and interesting for the listener. And then to fill out that low end, we've got live bass that I recorded in. And so with the verse, I had the harmonic chords recorded first, and the kind of rhythm guitar, and then it was the lead guitar was the next section that I laid down. And so when it was time to record the bass, I was really listening to the lead, and then I started copying some of the melodic runs onto the bass. So it makes the bass sound a bit more groovy, and I feel like it just really helps to reinforce the melody that the lead guitar is playing. Now for percussion, we've got a nice kind of simple, straightforward drum pattern. So I wanted to keep this very sparse and chill just because that's the overall vibe of the song, and it leaves a lot more room for that lead guitar to kind of dance around, and it will help it not sound too cluttered. And again, I kept the little egg shaker in there, and this time I'm only accenting on these snare hits. So with the drums. And I've got a little reverse cymbal here, just to help transition to when that little cymbal comes in halfway through the verse. So again, it always really helps to have little kind of cymbal crashes that you're using in your track to just export that on its own, resample it back in and reverse it. And yeah, it really helps to transition into new sections or new parts. Cool, so that sends us in to the first chorus. So let's give that a listen. Cool, so what we've got with the chorus, we're continuing with that initial kind of riff idea that I came up with on the harmonic sample. And so that's how we kind of started the song off as well. And the rhythm guitar is the same as well. And so with the rhythm guitar, I'm now just adding in little passing notes. So just to fill in the gaps and keep it sounding a little bit more varied. And then what we've got on the top there is the same synth that we looked at earlier on. And that's playing the same kind of little lead line that we heard earlier on at the beginning of the song. So again, just reinforcing that melody that I introduced a little bit earlier on. And I've done the same thing where I've got one instance of it fairly reverbed, and then I've got another one with delay. And so I've just added the delay onto the last note in both of them little phrases there. I've got that nice stereo delay again. So now if we look at more of the bass elements, so we've got the same harmonic kind of bass sample there. And so that is the same from the intro. I doubled that up on the bass guitar. And again, added a third layer with the sub where I'm adjusting the release again to help it mimic the bass guitar. So really just fill out that super low, that low end. So percussion, again, just a nice kind of straightforward, simple, sparse drum pattern. And I've got the egg shaker on top as well. And I've layered that up with another egg shaker, more just on the snares. Just as nice little accents. And then I recorded a little tambourine on the snare hits as well. Yeah, just to really kind of accent when the snares hit. And so this is where I brought in some more of the Paris ambience, as I'm calling it. So it really just acts as a little kind of texture, I suppose a subtle texture in there. And I suppose it's kind of more important for me just because for the reason I named the song, and I kind of like to know I've actually sprinkled in an actual little bit of kind of Paris in there. So whether you hear it or not in the song, I think if you listen for it, you can probably hear it. But it's very subtle, but I think I like to know that it's in there. So that's the first repetition of the chorus. And so on the second time, I knew I wanted to vary it and keep it interesting. And so I thought this might be a good time to try and play more of a lead line on bass guitar, because so far in the album, I hadn't really given that a go. So I thought, give that a try. And this is what I come up with. So I think it's just, again, a cool little groovy kind of melody line there. And it was fun to have a try at trying to play a lead on the bass guitar. And so that sends us into another repetition of the chorus, and this time I wanted to have the lead guitar do a little lead in to kind of ramp it up into that repetition, and then it can just carry on playing a melody. So this is the little kind of run-in that I came up with. So again, this is our C minor scale, and really I'm just playing the scale here now. That kind of lands us right on the first note of that chorus melody. So yeah, not really super inventive there. I'm just playing the scale, and yeah, it just kind of lands me nicely on that first note from this kind of main melodic part of the song. So that sends us into another repetition of the chorus, and this is where I wanted the guitar to be kind of taking the spotlight there. So this is how it goes. So for that lead guitar, again, it's all based around that C minor scale, and just noodled over it over and over until I, kind of landed on that. And I think what kind of helped with that is I started off the same as how we did in the very intro. So I thought it'd be nice to kind of play that again, because that's kind of, I suppose, the main kind of lead melodic hook of the song, we could say. And so it's kind of nice having them almost as like signposts along the way. So then it's just kind of thinking, what can I chuck in between to keep it nice and interesting? Cool, so that sends us into the second verse. And the second verse is very similar to the first verse. The only difference is I varied the melody that the lead guitar played. So this is the second verse. So yeah, just a nice variation on what I played in the first verse. So that sends us into the second chorus. So this second chorus, is pretty much the same as the first chorus, only difference, the little bass solo, I varied that just to keep it a little bit different from the first time. But then the lead guitar part is exactly the same, just because I want that to be the hopefully kind of more catchy, memorable part of the song. So definitely repeating that just helps it to become a little bit more memorable. So that sends us into the bridge of the song. So by this point, we've heard the intro, the verse, chorus. So it's definitely time to kind of change it up to a new section. So this is the bridge. So for the bridge, I definitely wanted to vary it up a little bit. And so here are the chords I settled on. So starting off with that same E flat. But now I'm voicing the C minor down here on the 3rd fret instead of kind of up here on that 8th fret. So we go on E flat, C minor. We go to the B flat, that's how we're kind of finishing off the verses. And then I just slid that down by 2 frets to an A flat. So I really like that chord progression. And so to fill in the gaps, I was just using, a load of these little slides, really. So yeah, just using my little finger and second finger just to add a nice little kind of melodic line in between the chords. And then to kind of help build it up into the end of the song, which will just be another chorus. So I wanted to, with the voicing of the chords, I wanted to go up in pitch just to help that kind of building feeling. So once I've done that little slide at the end of the A flat, go back to the E flat. So this is like our G minor chord. And then, the B flat. So I suppose I used the verse chord progression there to kind of help lead us back into the chorus. So that's the E flat, the G minor, and then the B flat there. And so I had the harmonic samples just playing the same chords to kind of help, support the guitar. And then I've got the same kind of lower harmonic sample there, acting as like a bass element. And that's just following the root notes of the chords that we're playing. And then drums, these are very sparse. So these are more just kind of accenting like the beginnings of the sections, really. And I've got a few reversed elements in there just to kind of fill up the gaps a little bit. And again, it just really helps to kind of transition to different sections. And I bring in more of the Paris ambience. And I faded that in, again, to help with this building feeling towards the end. Cool, and that sends us into the outro of the song, which is just the chorus again. Cool, so definitely with this song, I approached it in a different way compared to most of my other songs in the album. So with this, it was really starting on a MIDI keyboard. And so the cool thing with that is just the way you play chords and everything on a piano is going to be way different to the shapes and voicings that we use on a guitar. And so I think that's quite cool because I was then trying to take the chords I played on the piano to the guitar, and so that kind of led me to use different shapes that I probably wouldn't have thought of if I was just trying to come up with a chord progression on the guitar. So I think that's quite a nice way about it sometimes. Maybe if you feel like, oh man, I just feel like I'm using the same chords over and over and it might get a little bit monotonous and a bit repetitive, then yeah, try on a piano or a MIDI keyboard, or even if you've got an audio program, you can even draw in kind of notes onto the piano roll. And then, yeah, once you come up with a little progression you like, then try and translate them notes to your instrument, guitar or whatever that may be. And it might kind of inspire you and spark some kind of new ideas that you may not have come up with. Cool. So, yeah, the song is out everywhere: Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, all the streaming places. It would mean so much if you did give it a listen and streamed it and added it to playlists and shared it. That'd be very, very lovely. And I've made tabs for everything. So for the bass guitar, the lead guitar, and the rhythm guitar. So if you ever fancied learning it, you can check out a free tab in the description below, but I've also made a super detailed one going over kind of what fingers I use with the right hand and what fingers I use with the left hand for the different parts as well. So yeah, I hope you found this video interesting, or you might have kind of learnt a little kind of idea or something to try in your next song. So thanks a lot. I'll see you on the next one.